How's it going, guys? Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. I hope everybody had an amazing weekend and a very productive Monday. I know I did. Of course, as usual, we're going to kick off with NFL because it's only right. Now, we talked a bit last week to the fact that players were unhappy with the NFL's original statement addressing everything that's taking place in our world right now, especially our nation. Well, as we know, the NFL retracted that statement, and Commissioner Roger Goodell took to a video to not only send his heartfelt apologies to retract that statement, but to say that he apologizes for not hearing the players. He apologizes for not understanding where they were coming from. He apologizes for not listening. More importantly, he said, I personally will protest with you. I encourage you guys to continue speaking up and peacefully protest. Now, this was a big statement because, of course, with all statements, with all apologies, with all addresses, there comes questions. And aside from the players having their questions to say, was this genuine? Was this real? Will this be consistent? He was called to the table by a bigger name, our president, Donald Trump, and of course took to Twitter to address his question, saying, so is Goodell okaying the kneeling during the national anthem and to the flag? Well, that backlash is going to stir up a lot of questions because now comes the real test. This is where we find out if it was a heartfelt apology. This is where we find out if he's going to stick to this so that change can continue to progress. We are seeing a lot of positive change. But will Goodell, as well as the NFL, honor their statements and their announced efforts after being called to the table by Donald Trump? Now, here's the thing. President Trump can't exactly take away these guys' jobs. And if you are being honest and realistic about the situation, 70% of the NFL are Black athletes. So I don't think it would be in Goodell or the NFL's best interest to become silent and quiet or sideline themselves in this situation after President Donald Trump decided to hop on Twitter and have his words. But more importantly, this is the time for them to show that they actually mean what they say and that they're going to back it up. I think a lot more people are coming forward to say, look, this isn't hurting anybody. This is actually encouraging change. The real test in general will be what takes place on the field coming up here shortly. But the other thing is that we are seeing a lot of progression. We are seeing a lot of other athletes coming forward and saying, you know what, I understand now. It's not aggressive. It's not diminishing the flag. It's not diminishing the anthem. So if enough of those players continue to speak up and to stand firm in what their new understanding is, quote unquote, then I think we should have no trouble with people peacefully protesting and there being no issue. And hopefully the NFL continues to stand by these guys in doing so. Now, of course, in continued involvement and momentum, we're seeing other coaches heading out there with their players to show them that they're not just talking about it, but they're putting action behind it. We also saw head coach for the Falcons, Dan Quinn, out there this weekend. Last week it was Coach Harborough. So it's great to see everyone just coming in unity. I know that this is, again, very uncomfortable. I know that this is new for a lot of people, but, to just see how many people are really genuinely coming together for this is, it's huge. And this has been the most that I've seen people come together for it. This has been the longest the conversation has continued. So it's definitely very hopeful. It's definitely very enlightening. And I just, hope and pray that it continues to, go down the right path and that there's some real change coming here shortly. Now, of course, in light of all this conversation, people want to know, we're hearing that there's conversations taking place about Colin Kaepernick, but if he gets offered a contract, should he take it or should he pass it to continue proving his point? Now, in my personal opinion, I think it would be absolutely stupid for him to pass on it to try to prove a point. When he did this 4 years ago, he wasn't planning to be out of a job over it. So clearly, he still wanted to play football. The fact that he still tried out for teams in the past 4 years means that he still wanted to play football. The fact that he did a pro day and a workout this past spring means that he still wants to play football. So if you still want to play football, don't put your foot in your mouth and pass on a contract because you're trying to continue proving a point. Your point is being heard. Your name is being called out constantly and consistently. People are apologizing for not seeing where you were coming from 4 years ago. Do not pass on a contract. That would be ridiculous. Now, the only time you can potentially consider passing on a contract or feel like it's just a pity contract is if you get an offer over the other skilled QB1s out there that are free agents. Hence, Cam Newton. We still have quarterbacks out there, guys, that were QB1s in the 2019 season that are looking for jobs right now. So if Kaepernick swoops in and takes a job offer that doesn't exactly suit him or his skill set over another former QB1, then yes, that looks like pity. But if that's not the case, then take the contract, get your job back, start rebuilding your career, because for the most part, it seems like you still have something to offer. So I don't agree with anyone saying, hey, pass on that contract to continue proving a point. You have more people than ever backing you right now. Get your job back. Do what you have to do to continue peacefully protesting, but do not pass. I don't think that's going to make a point. Speaking of contract negotiations, we now have somebody else joining the holding out gang. Dalvin Cook, running back for the Vikings, said that he will no longer be participating in team activities until reasonable contract negotiations are taking place. Now, Dalvin Cook, dominant running back, yes. Does he contribute to the Vikings a lot? Absolutely. Is he that clutch guy who gets those extra yards and those important plays? Totally. But since he got into the NFL, he's been battling about 2 to 3 injuries that put him out for a number of games, for one. For two, you have to be realistic in the terms of which you decide to ask for things. Now, I know there's a louder message taking place right now, but we are still in the middle of COVID-19. And with that being said, we announced maybe 2 weeks ago that teams were getting together to start discussing salary caps, because they have to reevaluate and readjust their finances. Now, I know that the NFL season wasn't put on pause, and nobody thinks that they took those financial hits, but the things that would have taken place during the spring to prepare them for the fall, there's still finances involved there. They were lost. We are also still trying to figure out if fans will be able to participate in the 2020 season, amongst them predicting a second wave of COVID-19. So with all of this uncertainty still taking place, we are still talking about a lot of financial issues or unforeseen financial situations. It's not really the time to be negotiating your contract unless you're really hurting for money. And if the NFL wasn't one of those seasons put on pause and you were at the end of a contract, a good contract, could you maybe wait till next year to say that you're not going to participate in something to renegotiate? You know, take this season to show that you can stay healthy. Take this season to reclaim, your dominance on that field as a running back. But to do this right now, I don't particularly agree with. I think he can go another season without saying that he needs a reasonable deal. Yeah, I want to see you healthy, and I want to see you out there. I want to hear your name more than I hear Adam Thielen, and then I'd be happy to talk to you. But in the midst of trying to renegotiate financial situations for a team, when we don't even know if we're going to have fan revenue, I don't know how far he's going to get with that contract negotiation. Now, as we transition over to the NHL, they began phase 2 of their return to play plan today. Facilities open for small group training. We know that that's no more than 6 players at a time. That doesn't include staff or coaches, and this is not to be mistaken for training camp. Now, something that's been brought to light is that not all teams will be opening their facilities today because every team is on a different page when it comes to how many of their players actually stayed in town. We know that about a week and a half into quarantine, the NHL released a statement saying that players can go back home being as far as overseas, where a lot of players are from, Russia, Slovakia, Czech Republic. So a lot of guys aren't even around. I mean, for Montreal, they only had 5 players stay in town. And most teams, especially for safety precaution, are going to follow that 14-day quarantine protocol to make sure that everyone is safe, secure, and that no one's running COVID-19 before they just let them into the facility. So this can put a pause on a lot of, players getting and hopping back on the ice and getting that training underneath their belt, which, if you think about it, they only have about 2 weeks before they get ready to take off into the one of the 2 cities that they're assigned to jump into playoffs. And unless they're one of those top 4 seeds that are going to get that bye week out the gate, then that's a lot on the body. I mean, but Coach Cooper kind of said it months ago, you're going to go from being more idle, more lax training to, a sprint. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys manage the situation. I pray for everybody's health and that everyone's bodies just stay in the best condition, because like I said, you guys see me give the hockey a lot of credit because they're doing a lot on that ice. And these guys have been rollerblading if they got skates, and it's still not the same thing. It doesn't translate. Alex Killorn mentioned on a press conference call a couple weeks ago that, he has to remeasure his abilities on skates right now to see where he truly lies, and then what skill sets he needs to be working up and honing in on so that he can actually be an asset to his team. I will say, as for Tampa Bay, though, they kept all their players very close by for the most part, so they shouldn't be struggling with that issue. But as I mentioned, Montreal and 5 guys, that's a rough spot to pick up from. Update on the Penguins player that had COVID-19. He is now healthy and in recovery and is no longer testing positive. So congratulations to him and his health. I pray that he continues to stay healthy throughout the season, and that nobody else on the Penguins has contracted COVID-19, even though I'm not a Penguins fan. And other big news, though, for the NHL, we've discussed the fact that it's been a big deal that a lot of those players have come forward making statements about everything taking place in our nation right now, with most big situations and in terms of, racial issues. We've never really heard much from the NHL. And we're hearing the most ever, not only from players individually, but from the NHL itself. So in this progressive time that we have right now, in this positive change that's really taking place and moving forward, the NHL for the first time ever has about 5 players that came together to create the Hockey Diversity Alliance to make sure that players from all backgrounds can feel included and can feel motivated and inspired to actually play the sport that they are drawn to and that they love. Because there's a lot of people that love hockey, but they get intimidated and they choose not to play, or they get weeded out because they got bullied, in OHL and AHL as they work their way up to the NHL to start their career. You'd be surprised how many guys got weeded out of the process. Akeem Alui has a big story. He's the one who actually came out with the book or article, tell-all, saying hockey is not for everyone. He was very transparent to his upbringing, coming from, a Nigerian father and a Ukrainian mother, moving to Canada. And then as soon as he hopped into the OHL, he was bullied tremendously. I mean, a hockey stick pushed through his mouth, lost 8 teeth. Anyhow, you'd have to go read the article to get the whole breakdown. But long story short, there's a lot of players that get weeded out before they have an opportunity to see what they can really do on the ice. So it's amazing to see that there's now a diversity alliance. Evander Kane is one of the co-heads of it, along with Akeem Alui. You got Matt Duma, you got Wayne Simmons, you got Trevor Dowley, you got Chris Stewart, and recently retired Joel Ward. So that is a big move, not only in the hockey world, but in this nation, in this world right now, to just make people feel more included no matter where you come from or what your background is. That's amazing. They're saying that they will strive to be a force of positive change, not only within the game of hockey, but within the society. So they're going to also take all of this positivity and change off the ice. They said, although we will be independent of the NHL, we are hopeful that we will work productively with the league to accomplish these important changes. We believe in the importance of accountability in developing inclusivity and diversity for all involved in our sport, including fans and the league office. So this is amazing to have such an opportunity for change to continue. Stick with us, guys, as we head to a quick commercial break and we come back breaking down some NBA and MLB.
All this time we fought side by side. We trained together. We lost together. And now, you're the only one standing in my way.
All right, guys, welcome back. So as for our NBA updates, there's not a whole lot going on. We know that they now have to touch base on salary negotiations and what they're going to have to do to finish out this season and what the financial situation is going to look like for the 2020 and 2021 season. Now, as for, the excitement of the NBA returning, heading to Orlando, we got their whole plan, their whole breakdown, June 8th training camp, July 2nd, I believe they head down to Orlando. They're going to quarantine for 14 days and then kick off their season. Then comes the fact that a lot of players actually spoke up to the fact of how hesitant they are on even finishing the season or if it's worth it. We heard discussions on some people calling it an asterisk season because who can really determine that whatever team actually comes out on top of this season truly won it? Well, if top players continue to decide that they're not going to return, unfortunately, yes, there is going to be a bit of an asterisk on there because, as somebody once said, they determine being the best is competing against the best. And if some of your top players in the nation aren't going to return, then you're not really competing against the best. But either way, they have to finish this season out so that they can be real standings and seedings to continue into the next season. Now, amongst some of the players not returning, Kevin Durant announced that it'll be best for him to just wait until the next season. He will not be returning to finish the 2019-2020 season. He hasn't played since he tore his Achilles June 11th of last year. So at this point, for him, I can kind of understand because it's like, why agitate? Why even try to, cram in these games, get this done, rush through this season while he already probably has, he's still recovering and he doesn't want to agitate anything else. We know that these guys deal with some injuries, consistent injuries or underlying injuries a lot. Now, someone joining him may be Kyrie Irving. He is now saying that, after having surgery on March 3rd, he may not feel that it's the best idea for him to return either. Now, amongst all these names are a few other ones, but they're just wavering. It hasn't been confirmed that they're deciding not to return. So hopefully, we don't get a lot more players saying, hey, I'm just going to pass on this. Because on top of it, the G League season got canceled. So it's like, at what point what are we going to be watching NBA-wise if a lot of the top names decide, I'm just going to bow out of this situation? Give us your thoughts on that. If these players should just, bypass the season because it's not really worth it, or, use this season not only for yourself, but for your fans. We talk about the fact that sports are such a highlight. They're such a positive. There's something to look forward to. So, you still have that entertainment duty on top of, your own personal goals within your career. I get that, and it does have to feel worthwhile. In the same instance, somebody made a very great point earlier today is that, if not only for you, this is also an opportunity to continue such positive movement on a big platform. If you guys saw over the weekend, a lot of the protests taking place, a lot of NBA players were out there as well protesting, and a lot of them are stepping up to make donations. A lot of them are, speaking up. A lot of them are discussing how they can continue, this change to take place. Well, one of the biggest ways to continue is utilizing that platform that you guys have, those game days. And you guys are going to be the first set of game days before we head into the NFL season where the peaceful protesting started. So I think there's a real opportunity there if they want to continue, making a statement. If they want to continue to have this positive narrative on change and coming together, then you kind of have to remove yourself from the situation. Yes, it's worth it. Yes, go play. It's not idyllic, but you can still get a benefit out of it. Now for the MLB, what's new? These guys are still negotiating and kicking things around. I guess I would say one light in this little dark tunnel that we want to call the MLB right now is that last week they said that they were not going to have a counteroffer, but they came back with a counteroffer saying 76 games and 75% prorated salary. We will see what the players' feedback is on this and if it's something that they can work with. If not, like I said last week, we are in crunch time. They were supposed to be in training camp right now, and opening day was supposed to be around July 4th. So, if they don't figure something out in this next week or two, there will be no MLB season, because you want to talk about cramming something in. That's cramming. These guys are really holding to the fact that they don't want to lose any money. I get it, but we were in the middle of a pandemic. We were in the middle of some of the biggest financial issues that this nation has seen aside from an economic depression. So it's like, at what point can you give? Like, let's get some progression going here or just call it a season. Because every time I get to the MLB part of this segment, it's just like, I have nothing to really say or deliver on, or good news, or nothing's happening. These guys are still just going back and forth. Now, the other hard part as to why the MLB is saying, look, we can't really offer more than 76 games right now is because for them, whomever they're talking to medically wise is coming to the table saying, look, there's a big chance we're going through a COVID-19 wave 2. And if that's the case, we're not canceling a season, we're not pausing a season. And the worst thing we can do is get into a postseason and have to press the pause button. He said, we are not doing that. That would be even more of a financial hit than we are already taking right now. So that is very understandable as well, depending on whomever they're speaking to medically. If they're preparing themselves for a second wave, then at some point the players have to meet them in the middle here. I mean, what more can you do? 75% prorated salary, 76 games. Let's just get 2020 out of the way. Let's move on. Now, NASCAR had a very moving weekend. Sunday, they had a race in Atlanta, and this was big. This has probably been the top talk of the day, to my knowledge. Now, before the race started on Sunday in Atlanta, the NASCAR president himself actually made an announcement and asked for a moment of silence to honor everything taking place in this nation right now. He said that they will not be silent on this issue, that we as NASCAR must do better, and this will go for not only the competitors, not only staff members, not only families of competitors and staff members, but for fans. Racism will not be condoned, tolerated, or even egged on in NASCAR. It was very moving to the point where one of the only African-American racers, Bubba Wallace, was very emotional. They tried to interview him after the race, and I mean, including being dehydrated after just a long, long day of preparation and a big race. He was not even coherent, and then once he was just at a loss of words. He was emotionally overwhelmed on top of being dehydrated. If you get a chance to pull that up and see it, it's it's very emotional for one. So it's great to see again, just these different sports, these different teams, these different leagues, players, staff, athletes, coaches, owners, just all these people stepping up now and just saying, you know what, we're ready. We're ready for the uncomfortable conversation. We're ready to move this nation forward. We're ready to be one nation, regardless of your race or your background under God. This is progressive. This is positive. I know I keep repeating those two words, but there's nothing more to say other than those two words to really get the point across that there is some major change taking place when you get certain people finally speaking up and finally using certain platforms. Bubba Wallace, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, and more, take time to record a video to say, look, we're going to do more than just voice the fact that we're going to step up. We're going to put action behind it too, but they want to be a voice for shifting the culture, which is amazing. Now, on top of all the emotion of Sunday's race in Atlanta, Kevin Harvick, got to give it up for this guy. He won his 51st Cup race on Sunday, a couple days after his 40th birthday. So go you. Happy birthday to yourself. But he's kind of crushing it right now. He won a couple weeks ago as well, his 50th. And now he's just pushing it along. I'm pretty sure the Coke 400 will still be taking place. So I wonder what that's going to turn out for in terms of, him adding another victory under his belt, or if somebody else will come in and take it. Denny Hamlin, he's the other one who just happens to constantly be up there at the top taking these victories. So we'll see at the next race who wins it, but it's obviously super inspiring, motivating, and encouraging to see everyone stepping up and all the conversation that's taking place. Stick with us as we go to another quick commercial break and we talk a bit of soccer and UFC when we get back.
I'm not picking it up. You pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
Well, somebody's got to pick it up.
I'll pick it up. They're clean. 'Cause my hand is clean. Oh yeah, I'm Charmin clean. That's how I know they're clean.
Charmin Ultra Strong is woven like a washcloth and just cleans better.
Yeah, I'm Charmin
The
clean.
kid does have a
That's
point.
My hand is clean.
Enjoy the go with Charmin. And for an extra clean finish, try Charmin Flushable Wipes.
All right, guys, welcome back. So as we hop into soccer, we'll just kind of shine a light on the fact that, there's still a bit of a debate whether, protesting or taking a knee during the national anthem and while the flag is abroad, if that is disrespectful. And I would say that more people have obviously shifted their view, their opinion, or been more understanding to the fact that, that's what protesters feel is the best outcome, the best platform, the best opportunity and moment to really make the statement that they're trying to make. Now, as we're talking about change and everything, we have U.S. Soccer actually reconsidering their anthem policy. We know that originally 4 years ago, when all of the kneeling started to take place, some bans went into place saying, hey, if you kneel during that flag, you will receive a fine. You will get a pay cut. There will be repercussions for you doing that. You know, it's a big deal when they start reconsidering or discussing to repeal such bans. So U.S. Soccer is reconsidering the anthem policy. We will find out more later. They're actually voting on that tomorrow, I believe. So we should know between Wednesday or Friday segment what takes place there. We know that Megan Rapone is probably the lead and, you know, creating that change in that situation. When it comes to any U.S. soccer games coming up, she actually respectfully decided to bow out until, you know, change took place or things were negotiated in a better light. So once we get more information on that, we will let you guys know. As for UFC, never a dull moment in UFC. I'm a big fan of fights. I love it. I'm not one of those girls that get squeamish. I can actually watch the fight. I have a lot of respect for MMA. I love it. Conor McGregor, why? Like, why are you retiring again? And then it's like, if this was for real, wouldn't there have been just a more heartfelt statement? I mean, dude, you're a millionaire because of this sport. I feel like he definitely brought a flair to it. I would love to see him continue. There was a few players that he started not players, excuse me, but there were a few fighters he started calling out, and then all of a sudden he retires again. Well, maybe somebody can egg him on to reconsider his retirement yet again. Floyd Mayweather decided to call him out, saying, first of all, didn't you try this already? And second of all, if you decide to come back, I will be waiting to punish you. Well, I mean, if I was a fighter, that would be inviting. I'm like, wait, I told you I could beat you. I told you that I wanted another round at this. So if anything, I think we can bank on seeing Conor McGregor back in the octagon. Who knows how soon, but it's like you get called out like that, you're not retiring yet. You gotta back, I don't know, you got to try again. But I'm not taking it very seriously because, like I said, I mean, he didn't even really have much of a heartfelt statement there. He had more to say, you know, during COVID-19 as to why, first of all, why he didn't want to fight without fans in the stands. Then he saw a fight, got all heated up about it, and then said, screw the fans, I want to take you on anyway. So then it's like, what's going on, McGregor? Like, he's got a lot going on. So I don't think that retirement's going to stand, but we'll see. Now, for things getting canceled because of continued COVID conversation, Canada West has canceled all fall sports. This will actually more impact universities and colleges. There will be no football, no soccer, no anything for universities and colleges in Canada West. Now, where this can end up tripling down to is the fact that CFL is actually very important to U.S. players because, you know, guys that come out of college and they didn't get the playing time that they wanted or deserved in some cases, guys that had decent seasons in college, but they didn't have the right agent, they didn't create the right draft stock, or they went into the NFL, they got injured, they weren't able to negotiate a contract for a comeback. So long story short, the CFL has a lot of purpose that benefits U.S. players, and if they end up not being able to have a season, that can be very impactful. You know, for one, these are people's jobs. For two, this is a platform and an opportunity for these guys to, you know, show their skill set so that they can go into the NFL. The CFL is not really a long-term career goal or, you know, place where people try to stay and just comfortably build their career. It's usually a platform or a foundation for them to spring off of into where they want to finish off their career. So that would be extremely unfortunate if there's no CFL this fall. They usually start about May and run through October 31st, and then their semifinals kick up about November 8th, depending on when that falls. So hopefully that's not the case, but if it is, I mean, we just have to think about how many people are really being impacted in the sports world. There's still a lot of unforeseen times ahead of us right now. In the midst of everything going on, there is still COVID-19 causing a lot of issues. So hopefully, you know, these guys can get their jobs and get a lot of these things figured out. But as for the players who if your bank's not really hurting when it comes to contract negotiations, when it comes to, these back and forth debates because you don't want to take a 25% pay cut, I just hope that a lot of these guys can sit back and reevaluate, because it's like, if you're not hurting that bad, move on. Because at the end of the day, you're not just an athlete. This isn't just your job or a career. This is also entertainment. This also gives to fans. And if fans can't participate, like, the least you can do, if you're not financially hurting, let me restate that. If you're not financially hurting, the least you can do is, be that fan's player. Be there. Step up in this time where everybody's hurting in a different way right now. So we kind of have to draw back on the greed if that's where a lot of players are coming from, because, at this time, we all just need each other, bottom line. So now, we haven't done a community hero in a minute, and I'm kind of just throwing this out there, but it surely came out a bit ago that Michael Thomas for the Saints, he just did a donation for $2.3 million to medical people to go to medical school who don't have the opportunity to pay for the learning that they need. That is amazing. And I'm also going to give another shout out to Alex Killorn, Tampa Bay Lightning winger, whatever you want to call him. He's actually rounding up a lot of money for the Hillsborough County Education Foundation. If you guys head over to his Instagram, you'll see a lot of the shout outs for everybody who is buying these t-shirts for how much money he actually raised for the foundation. And it just keeps on going. I mean, it has not slowed down. I don't have the exact number right now because off the top of my head, I wanted to get another community hero out there. But, hats off to Michael Thomas for the Saints. Hats off to Alex Killorn for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they're really doing it up. I mean, between $2.3 million for medical students, and I wish I had the number for Alex Killorn, but either way, it's been a lot of money, and it's still continuing. People are loving it. And, the guys are about to head into their season, so we don't know how many other more influencer episodes we will get out of Killorn, but either way, Doc Talk is staying hype and popular. People are loving it, and it's all going to a bigger and better cause in such a significant time. So congratulations to Alex Killorn as well as Michael Thomas for being our community heroes today. Guys, as usual, stay safe, stay sane, stay kind, stay compassionate, and just know that the only way change is going to continue to take place in our world is if we do it together and if we are consistent about it. So I hope everybody has a great rest of their Monday evening, and I will see you Wednesday at 8 p.m.